Order. Wait, roll call, please.
Angela Truelock,
Here.
Mary Mosquera,
Here.
Kathy Parks,
Here.
Joel Fair,
Here.
and Betsy Ronk.
All right. Do we have any member of the public that wanted to say anything before we get going? Okay. Next item is to approve or amend the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at that?
I did. I would motion to approve the minutes as recorded.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next item here is we've had 9 applicants now for the Culture and Leisure Services Board. 4 of them are supposed to be here tonight to interview. We can move to wait and hear all of them before we make a decision, if that's what we want to do. If anybody wants to make that motion?
There is one matter of business that you might want to consider
Okay.
first. This is kind of, well, it's new to this generation of board members. I've seen, in my previous role as board secretary, I've seen where in the past this board and many other boards had the luxury of having so many applicants that there were alternates appointed as well. So if someone couldn't be present, someone had to have an extended leave of absence, the board could still make its quorum. So the way the code reads, and I attached a copy of it, it's that universal code that applies to all the boards. You can request or recommend to city council to start to include alternates
Okay, so
as
we-
part of this board.
Okay.
So one of the
I wasn't sure
advantages
how
of
that
that
worked.
is that it reduces the amount of meetings that might get canceled for quorum. The people that are appointed as alternates are expected to attend as is. They can sit up here with us, they can engage in the conversation. The only thing they can't do is vote on things unless they are on that side officially filling in for another seated member. So it's a nice opportunity that we've not had in over a decade, at least. I don't remember the last time any of these boards did have alternates. So that's something for you to consider, but just like any other thing coming from this board, it's basically, if you wanted to take that route, it's a recommendation to council, and they can take it or leave it at that point. So it's up to
Okay.
you guys, but you'll see in front of you that we tried to prepare for whatever way any of these agenda items went. So you do have little slips up there, so if you end up taking the route to make, to recommend alternates, there's a slip for alternate recommendations, and then there's also slips up there for, board member applications. So those are just us trying to prepare for whatever the board wants to go with. So, so that would be the first item to discuss, because that's going to affect how
Yeah,
many
if
people
we
you're
want the
going to
alternates.
ultimately recommend.
And we really could have used them.
So,
I have a
but
question.
to your point, you do have that option once we get to the item number 4, to make a determination on if you want to interview everyone, or if you want to make appointments based on who's here, or it's entirely up to the board.
I have a question about how it was written up in the, in the board procedures and so on. When we vote, are the alternates voted on to become an alternate, or are they kind of, we have recommended people to become a board member, and whoever's left over beyond the number of our vacancies, then they would automatically become the alternates?
So I kind of had that same question too, and the code is fairly silent on how recommendations are made for either alternates or board members. Every caveat on that list is it's at the discretion of council. So if you wanted to, say you did want alternates or board members, you could just take 4 people, because you have 2 vacancies on the board and you have the opportunity for 2 alternates. You can recommend 4 people and let council sort it out. Or you could recommend it as, these are the folks we want for members, these are the folks we want for alternates. Obviously, that would be a 2-stage voting process, because whoever you recommend as a member, can't be both an alternate and a member. So it's entirely up to you guys. And then once you make your recommendation, the ball is fully in council's court to determine how they want to execute your recommendation.
Okay.
Did that answer that? Because it was really confusing to me as we were trying to prepare, how do I prepare this voting slip? How do we do this? So,
So if we were to recommend alternates, and then would it be a wise idea to also recommend, because the code is not very specific, would also be a wise idea to recommend how those alternates fill? If someone steps off the board, like Mr. Holmes did, so thankful for the way that he served this board. I don't know if we stated that last meeting, but he served us really, really well for a long time, so
Yeah.
super thankful. But if someone were to step off in between terms, would an alternate move into that slot? Or, and those are just some questions that I have, because
I believe so.
it's not clear in the code.
Right.
Will we need to recommend that to council to adopt for, at least for this board, if not for all boards?
So I'm going to have to follow up with city clerk.
Right.
Well, I follow up with city clerk on it first, because they've basically seen it all, and if they don't know, they send me straight over to the city attorney for clarification on how that gets interpreted. I believe that would be the natural selection for that. I mean, just the most obvious, that if somebody departed, the first appointed alternate would take that position, or it may even be up to the alternates on, hey, are you available to make all of these meetings? Are you available to uphold, this end of the commitment, and then go from there? Because things can change in a 2 and 3 year term, obligations change. So that would be something that we're going to have to follow up on and maybe tackle at the next meeting. At least I can provide a report to the board on the direction that clerk's office and the city attorney
But
want
for
us to go
clarity,
with that.
If we were to recommend to council to adopt the alternates, you would also recommend appointing 2 alternate, or giving recommendation to council for 2 alternates?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so
excellent.
you would select 4 people.
Got it. Thank you.
I have one other question.
This is Betsy. And looking at the code on letter M, it does rather infer that if an alternate member would be appointed as a regular board member as the successor. So but I think it's good, like you said, Molly, to get clarification that is the way it was written to be.
I agree. I made a note of that, so I'll get the clarification. Because another question that I kind of had with it is, so much of what we've done in the past, we've discussed multiple times, both in council meetings and in our meetings, the code is really silent on some of the finer nitty-gritty details, because it's ultimately up to the needs of the board, and they write codes a little bit loose because they know things change. And In the past, there was always, because we only had, maybe one or two people that were ever interested at one time, that it was very much first come, first serve. And so when I arranged this, I made it a point to list everybody based on when they applied, when their things were received, and I even put them in order of receipt in your packets. So maybe that is a consideration as part of that code, where the first alternate that applied could, fill an immediate vacancy if something happened. But once again, I'm going to have to get clarification.
I have one other question, following up on getting some clarification. When we do choose board member recommendations and alternate, and we pass them on to the council, we pass them on as, 2 recommendations for board members and 2 for alternates. Can the council kind of mix it all up and
It is-
redecide, and they may not want the people who are our board member recommendations, but want the alternates? Can they,
It is fully at their discretion.
everything is in their discretion, they can do anything they want? Okay,
Yes, they can.
just wanted to know ahead of time.
And they have the luxury of a city attorney sitting right there to help provide immediate clarification. I invited him, but he was occupied today.
Thank you.
Okay, so where do we go next, Molly?
So
Now that we're
the next thing is to, if you want to go the route of appointing alternates, then you would make a motion to have council consider appointing alternates, given the number of interested parties. If you don't wish to take the alternate route, then your motion would be to not consider, not ask the council to consider alternates at
Right.
that time.
I think alternates is a good idea. I
Yes.
think it's helpful for making sure that we meet quota on all the meetings and allows more to get done. Gives some more diversity on
Definitely.
the board also, so I'd be for it.
You want to make that in form of a motion?
I was going to wait and see if anybody else had anything to say.
No, I agree, it's a good idea. We've had too many
Right.
meetings where we have not been able to get a quorum.
Okay. I would motion that we take staff's advice and put forward to council the appointment of 2 alternate members to the Culture and Leisure Services Board.
Second it.
I'll second that motion. This is Betsy.
All right.
Okay.
We got to vote on it.
We want to do a roll call, Sam?
Angela Trulock,
4.
Mary Mosquera,
4.
Kathy Parks,
4.
Joel Fair,
4.
Betsy Ronk.
4.
Well, if you're not talking into the mic.
So given that recommendation, as expressed in the motion, you will be considering 4 candidates at this time.
Okay.
I think the only other discussion would be, do we want to recommend 4 for council's discretion to, they decide board and alternates? Would we want to send a recommendation of 2 board members and where we choose 2 board members and 2 alternates? Or would we just recommend to take them as they've applied? That could be another option too, so.
There's so many of them, and this is probably need a motion before we
So
discuss it.
I do see that there's a change in what's in front of me on the screen and what I got in my last email, that there's only 4 names on the screen.
Those are the 4 that were able to make
Okay.
today's meeting.
Okay,
And
got it.
Yep.
Because
Yeah,
need
we
to
have
talk
all of
about,
them.
We're going to make a decision tonight or wait and interview everybody.
Okay.
Does that mean we'll be able to make at the next meeting, the next group, perhaps?
yes,
So that we'll hear from everybody first before we
Yes.
make a decision.
And in that,
And they'll all have a chance then to,
right,
speak up.
and if they can't make it, they can't make it,
Right.
but at least they'll have multiple opportunities, I guess, to at least, stand before you guys and answer questions. As part of that, and that's one of the things that you guys can get into with item number 4, you can ask for a special meeting, and we can coordinate a date for a special meeting, or we can wait until July. I'm not that all of us are excited about having a bunch of meetings, but I think it would be in the best interest of the board and the city if we considered something between now and July. But that is up to you,
And that special meeting would simply be to interview the rest of the candidates.
just to
Okay.
interview the rest of the candidates.
That said, we wouldn't want to necessarily vote with a recommendation tonight because we would want to interview all the candidates first.
If that's the route you want to take, you'll need to make a motion on that so item number 3 is technically settled.
Right.
So your next motion will be to address how you want to do the interviews and when you want to make the appointments, as far as if you want to make the appointments today or if you want to interview everyone and make an appointment at once, as many people as we can have get to attend.
Okay.
So that's entirely up to you.
I'll make a motion that we interview all the applicants before we make any decisions, which means that we'll have to meet another time also in order to interview the applicants.
I would second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So at this time, I would recommend, since we do have 4 people here to interview, I would interview the folks that are here, and then once their interviews are completed, we'll tackle do we do a special meeting or do we bring it back in July? So, I just want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Excellent.
So the first one, based on date of submission, would be Ms. Tina Freeman. Yes, please.
Please.
Good
Just,
evening. Happy to be here. Thanks. Appreciate it.
just state your name and give us some idea why you want to be on this
Sure.
on this board?
My name is Tina Rose Freeman, and my family has owned here since 1996. And I was born and raised in Orlando, but this is where I spent most of my time, including missing a few days of school. But I spent a lot of time here since probably the age of about 4 or 5 years old. And my father was a mechanical engineer, and he built a lot of the buildings and things over at the Cape. So we'd spend a lot of time here. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because I'm very vested in this community. Having been a part of this community since 1996, I've lived here full time since 2010. And I've served on the board of my association for 8 years, and just recently got off of that in January and was approached by a couple of the city council members. Hey, do you want to be on another board? So, and like I said, I'm very active in the community, and I enjoy all the recreation that we have here. I'm an outdoor person, so I don't spend a lot of time at our indoor facilities, although I do have my membership. But I really enjoy the outdoors and the parks that we have, and so I really want to see that going as well as it has been. And also too, I'm really enjoying the dog park. I was so happy to see that go up. So, like I said, my vested interest, and also too representing my community association. We have 30 units, and I enjoy taking back information. I attend city council meetings, so I take back information to them to get them involved. Recently, I was involved in the right whale sighting, that workshop that we had to learn about the right whales and what we can do to save them. Only 356 of them are left. And a week before our meeting, one of the 1-year-olds got hit by a vessel right outside here and died just down the beach. So, like I said, I really would like to, contribute. I feel like I'm a team player, having served on other boards, and I'm really coming with a sense of collaboration and cooperation. And I'm not a procrastinator. I like to move ahead and keep things going. So that's what I'm all about.
Okay, well, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Freeman?
I do.
I
Never mind. Go ahead, Ms. Rump.
I just had two questions based on your your application that you put in. If you could tell us something about the 2 nonprofit boards you served on, and also what positions did you serve on in your condo association during those 8 years?
The condo association, I first served as secretary for the first 3 years, and the last 5 years I served as the president. And yeah, that was a lot of work, but we got a lot of things accomplished. And I didn't hear the first part of your question about something on my resume you had a question about?
You stated that you served on 2 nonprofit boards. I was just
Right.
curious as to what those were or what type of a role you played on those.
Okay, yes. One of the boards I served on was called Children's Haven of Southwest Missouri, and I also served on a board called the Southwest Community Alliance. And the Southwest Community Alliance was a group of business people, people in the community, where we would identify the needs. We would do the research, and we would identify needs in the community, and then we would put together and write grants to address those needs. So one of the needs that we saw about 67% of grandparents were raising their grandchildren. And so that came twofold because we had a huge teen pregnancy rate. So we put together a teen pregnancy and prevention agenda. We put together a board. We put together a whole program. So I served on that board. And then the other problem that we saw was we had a huge meth problem. And we had a lot of parents who were going through crisis. They were either incarcerated, there was domestic violence, there was drug use. They were just going through crisis where they couldn't pay their utility bills, pay for food, things like that. So once we identified that need and saw that the need was overwhelming, we established the Children's Haven. And what that was an emergency shelter for children where we could keep the children and the parents could retain custody, but we could keep the children for up to 30 days. Anything after 30 days, it would go before the board, and the board would decide, what the next steps were. If the parents needed to relinquish custody, or if we needed to find a family, relative, those kinds of things. So I served on that board. I was secretary on that board, and then vice president. I wrote grants. I did fundraising, and it was very much a working board, much like our Condo Association board was. It's a working board. Roll up your sleeves, dig in, and get things resolved.
In your condo board as president, were you a self-management condo association, or did you have a management company?
Well, we had a property management company that we ended up firing because they were so antiquated. They were still doing paper ledgers. They were, and plus being a 30-unit board, we weren't prioritized because the bigger condominium complexes got a lot more of the attention. So we were having to do a lot of the work ourselves. We were having to, get our own bids, deal with contractors, all those kinds of things. So then we voted to get a new a new property management company, which we have. But now that property management company has grown so much. They have about 50 properties in 5 counties. So again, we're back to doing a lot of the work ourselves. And basically about all they do is the finances. So again, it's very much a working board.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I have 2 questions. Have you been to one of our advisory board meetings before?
No,
Okay.
this is my first one.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And so then my second question would be, having not been to a meeting, what do you think that the purpose of this board is, in your own words, to kind of tell me what you're volunteering to do?
Well, I think that the advisory board is made up of people who are involved in the community and can bring back, to the advisory board information, input of what's going on in the community, what people are saying, what people are asking for, what they feel about different things. And so I feel like that's part of the role of being an advisory, and also too, and going to city council with recommendations, but also being the eyes and ears to see, what's going on out there. Because there's like 27 parks here. It's just, there's a lot in this little bitty space.
Absolutely.
And so I think that we need to be the eyes and ears as well as what's going on out in the community.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you very much.
So much, Tina.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, next up is Mr. Stobie.
Hello.
Just tell us who you are and why you're here.
Well, I am listed here as James Stobie because that's my name, but I go by Tom, which is my middle name, and so that I do that just to confuse people.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I've worked with Angela over at Carnival, so she knows me as Tom. I thought I'd clear that up with you. She's wondering who James is. Yes. So I'm a retired minister. The last church I pastored was in Merritt Island, and liked it down here. We call this God's waiting room, so I decided to retire right here. And I live now in Cape Canaveral over at the Oaks, and we've originally lived on a boat over in Merritt Island at the Harbortown Marina, and then sold the boat and bought a condo. And my partner in life, she is the president of our HOA, so I know what you've been going through. I watch her, can't please all the people all the time, and it's quite a battle, but it's hard work. So when we moved into this area, it was our desire to try to make this place the nicest place it could be, including the condos where we live, but also this community. And I've been very busy since I'm retired. I get to go over and play pickleball every day that I'm not working at Carnival. So I have a little bit of an obsession with that. I'm going to a 12-step program to try to get down that way. But I also spend a lot of time over at C5 working out over there when it's too hot or when it's raining or when we can't play pickleball. And I enjoy the beaches, I enjoy the parks. I just like this town, and I like to see it. Blossom and improve. So
Fantastic.
that's why I'm here.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Mr. Stobie?
How long have you lived here in Cape Canaveral?
In Cape Canaveral, we moved here in 21.
Okay.
I was in Merritt Island for a few years, and then before that we were down in Cocoa Beach for a little while. In Florida since 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
In your What makes Cape Canaveral unique from from Merritt Island or Cocoa Beach?
Well, this will sound odd, not the answer you're looking for, but I go everywhere on my bicycle here.
Okay.
I couldn't do that at Harbor Town because I had to get out on the highway and I couldn't get up to 65 miles an hour. But I love this community because I ride my bike to work, I ride my bike to play pickleball, I ride to the beach. We walk a lot around here, and we have met so many wonderful people in this community. This did not always happen where I was in the past. I lived in condo associations where we only saw people on the elevators, never even learned names, and it was very cold. But here I know a great number of people from our condo association, from the pickleball place, and from Carnival, and people that I've just met in town. And I have found it to be a very welcoming and friendly community, very active community. I just really enjoy it here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Thank you for your interest.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
I appreciate it.
The next one we've got is Carolyn Serbin, and did I pronounce that right? You did. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, you've got two great candidates already, so, you know, good for you. I'm Carolyn McAtee Serbin. My husband and I bought our condo here in 2006. We love Cape Canaveral because it is not Disney-fied, it is low density, it's not high rises. I love the beach in the late afternoon. That is just fantastic for me to go out in the late afternoon sun. I'm interested in the board because I have a background in communications and marketing. I think that I can help with the community outreach, I hope, and I have a lot of background in social media and podcasting and various things like that. So what I bring to the board would be a little bit different from the fantastic Tina or the fantastic Tom. And I'm sort of branching out into the community after losing my husband, so this is something that I'm doing sort of consciously to get out into the community a little bit more. So any questions you might have for me? I'm here to learn mostly and see what I can do to help the board.
How did you find out about the board and the position being available?
Oh, I read the weekly thing every week.
Fantastic.
I
that is
love
good
that.
info.
I watch the space between the little videos. I watch all of that. I love all of that. I'm very much interested in, you know, what's happening as far as businesses, what's happening as far as growth, what's happening as far as crime. I'm very interested in what's going on in the community.
I did see that one of your other boards that you would like to serve on is the Business and Economic Development Board. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have an MBA, and so and I was a business owner at one point, so that's another possibility
Okay.
as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I've been coming over here for days at the beach since we moved to Orlando in 1990, so
Okay.
I've seen a lot of changes over here.
Anybody else have a question?
All right, thank
Well,
you very much.
thank you very much.
Carolyn.
Thank you for your interest. Okay, next we've got Mary Lou Stant.
You pronounced my name perfectly. It is Mary Lou. I go by Mary Lou. And I'm sitting there thinking, as everyone is saying what I wanted to say before I got up here. But really, I boiled down to its essence. I was heavily impacted by John F. Kennedy to not ask what my country or my community can do for me, but what can I do for my community. I almost got, derailed by the fact that there were 9 people. I didn't perceive a need, but I came out anyway because my second modus operandi, if you will, is to live, work, and play in the community in which I live. So I am single, and I'm not as gregarious as maybe some people are, to like go do things by myself, you know, pickleball or whatever. I do swim in Cocoa Beach. That's my thing. I was a competitive swimmer. I was born in Palm Beach County, educated elsewhere, but anyway, ended up here by working for a friend of mine that has a business in Indian Harbor Beach. And I landed in Cape Canaveral because I was instantaneously drawn by ocean woods. I mean, the combination of the ocean and the woods, it just, in my mind, you know, in your environment, doesn't get much better than that. So I live in ocean woods, and my experience with boards are, when I lived in North Palm Beach, I was on the golf course or the recreation board, and I have this kind of uncanny ability to point out the obvious. It hasn't always worked in my favor, but I helped the city of North Palm Beach convert to rubber cleats on, they couldn't get anybody to make a motion to make the change, and so I did, and it was voted, and I thought the golf pro was gonna, you know, lose his teeth. And then the other time was when I lived in Charlotte, I was working for the American Red Cross, and again, trying to figure out a way to plug into my community, and I volunteered for the IT board for Mecklenburg County, and but mostly that was a pretty high-powered group of people that the board were just, you know, they nodded in concurrence, and most of whatever was recommended or passed by their plate. So anyway, but it was good. It was very eye-opening, and I did meet some nice people. And what else? I am here to learn, and I am single, and so I thought that this would be a way to combine, you know, getting involved with also being helpful to the community in which I live. I think I said everything.
Thank you. Anybody
Thank you very
have any
much.
questions?
Oh, and I'll be happy with either appointment, you know, alternate or board member. I would accept anything.
You said that you ended up back here. How long have you lived in Cape Canaveral?
6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you love most about it?
The demographic is mine mostly, and the lack of, what am I trying to say? It's just a slower pace. There are less people. I thank God every morning at the beach. I don't walk my dog on the beach. I walk down to the beach to say my prayers on the beautiful sea grapes and grass that we have. And nobody, it's not like you have to have a shoehorn to get a space on the beach, you know? So, and like you say, riding your bike, it's a little treacherous, but only during the season, you know? I rode my bike here tonight. I just like the feel of the community. I really do. That's why I haven't moved out. I bought a place.
Yeah. Thanks, Mary Lou.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And those are the 4 we have tonight. We'll have to decide whether to call a special meeting and interview the rest of them before we make a decision.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and decide on that now? Would that be your recommendation, Molly, as far as special meeting, trying to recommend that, or do we need to
Well, I
get?
think we decided to see everybody, but we
Right.
can do the special meeting after.
But was the special meeting to see more people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Because the other option would be to wait till July.
Yeah, and that, I
And-
think that's a little long.
Yeah, that's a little longer than we need to. And we do have the ability to stick to our last, you know, the fourth, or not fourth, the last Thursday, which would be June 27th. To my knowledge, there's nothing happening here for that, which is part of the reason that we made the shift to the last Thursday several years ago, because we kept conflicting with other boards when we had to change things around, so. that would be ideal. We would at least need 1 week's time to post the agenda, so you wouldn't want to go too much sooner than that because you'll run into issues with the legal side of posting agendas and whatnot. And that would probably give, I mean, a month's notice is fair to me, to get something on the schedule.
And to get in touch with the other
Yeah,
applicants.
to get,
and
yeah,
together.
so.
Would it be possibly since this would be just to interview the last 4 applicants, to contact them and see if they'd be available in a month's notice or in 2 months? They may have looked at the calendar of when the meetings are and have kind of planned to be there in July, especially during summer months when people are often so busy. And then maybe, I mean, we don't have a lot pressing on our agenda that we need to fill this immediately. So maybe the best date would be the date we could get the most people there.
I'd agree with that. The one thing would be that the folks who are here tonight, we want to get information to them ASAP. And so if we wait until the July meeting, then that could be, some of them have a couple different boards that they're looking at serving on. So that would be my only pushback to that. I think if we were to set a special meeting and invite people, we could get information from Molly ahead of time about who would be able to attend, which of the applicants would be able to attend the special meeting, and then we can make a decision from there if we wanted to continue the interview process in the July meeting, the normally scheduled July meeting.
That is correct.
Thoughts on that, Ms. Runt?
I wasn't sure if I caught the end of what you had said. Did you say that if someone couldn't make a special meeting, they could come in July? Is that what you said? Or I wasn't sure if I heard that correctly.
I said that we could schedule the special meeting in June, and then we would be able to get information back from Molly about how many of the applicants would be able to attend that meeting. And if we needed to, we could continue the application interview process in July. But if we could get it done by June, that would be better.
I agree with that.
I would agree with that. That's for sure. I just don't want to, eliminate a possible good candidate just due to scheduling difficulties, as we all have scheduling conflicts.
I would motion to schedule a June 27th. Is that the correct date?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's correct.
A special meeting on June 27th and 5:30, normal time and day of the week to meet and try to get the other 5, see if we can't schedule the other 5 applicants there.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
And I did want to mention one thing. Angela Raymond's still on the list here.
Okay.
We've already interviewed her and she's out of town right now, but
She's already been
one of the
recommended.
9. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
already been before council.
She has,
She
but
she was denied by the council.
She was what?
Denied.
I don't believe a
That
vote
is
was
not what
taken.
happened.
She
No vote.
departed the chamber before a vote was taken.
I think if we, I think that Ms. Ronk, I don't think she was voted down by the council. I don't think a vote was ever taken. I do think that, I know at least on this agenda, her application came back again, and we could interview her again, or we can take the interview that we already did, and we can make a decision with her as part of the applicants, would be my recommendation.
I just,
I think we'd have to get clarification on that from council, because that was not what I heard from council members.
Did not vote.
they did not.
Okay.
All right.
Before we close out on the recommendations and the board, I just want to thank you all for coming, listening to everyone. All of you would provide such a great, diverse background and experiences, and we're so lucky to have you all come out and be interested. So even if we end up with too many people, I hope you will stay looking at boards and be part of the boards, because everyone's background and all their experiences all kind of come, and even if it's like even an experience from your childhood or something, all those things seem to have some impact in how we look at things through the board. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, of course.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, you can go up to
Yeah.
the podium.
I'm not volunteering anyone, but I'm just suggesting I could come back for the other meeting if you wanted to have all of us here together when you decide. That's all I was thinking, so.
Thank you. I'm not sure that's, it's definitely not required, but because it's public, you feel free to come to any of our meetings. Special meetings are public meetings too, correct?
Yep.
They'll be posted, you'll know. So more than welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to move to staff reports?
I think so. Take her away, John.
Good evening,
Good evening.
board members. We finished up, I don't know if any of you happened to see our guys yesterday replacing the last of the lights over at the ball field. We had to have FPL come in and disconnect a transformer, so it was safe for our guys to work on, but that was the last pole that we had remaining. So all the lights are swapped out now. We've got some figuring out to do of which, with the lights at night, we've got to go out at night and turn them on and see where we need to make adjustments to get proper coverage out in the outfield, but that project is coming to an end. Same with Patriots Park. We were putting together the park benches and the picnic table that came in, and we got to the picnic table, and this stuff is all concrete. I mean, it's heavy. And we found out that the company sent us the wrong seats so we're waiting for the new replacement seats to get here to get that finished, and got to get some, the old benches, get those out of there, and then we'll be pretty much ready to go with that park. Even it's being used by residents now. Today, I don't know if Molly's going to speak to this, but they installed the valve down at Center Street Park, part of the project for the stormwater. Did you have that down?
Oh, good.
Okay. So they're pursuing that. Veterans Memorial Park, I'm trying to line up a crane to come in. Apparently, the city doesn't have one large enough to lift the monument that's over there. It's a little over 2 tons. And our guys went over and looked at it from Public Works, and they said they didn't feel comfortable with the piece of equipment that we had to do it. So I'm waiting to hear back for a quote on what that's going to cost and when they can do it. I spoke to the guy this afternoon, and he said they can get to it fairly quickly. So we just have to, I'm waiting to hear back from him. And we're on schedule for the June 14th grand opening there. And the tennis court lights, I know that's something we have been around and around. There are electrical issues over there. We've had multiple companies come in and troubleshoot, and now we're down to the consensus is that it's an FPL issue. So I'm waiting for the write-up because it's over my head. if I got on the phone and started trying to tell them what was wrong with FPL, they'd never come. So I've asked for a report, and I'll pass that along to FPL and try to get them out. We've replaced breakers, we've replaced timers, we've replaced lights, and we can't figure out what's going on with it. So that's pretty much it for my report.
And I'll piggyback off that. I didn't originally have it on the list, but I'm glad that John brought it up. There's a couple items to do with the Nancy Hansen property that are kind of in play right now. We've discussed the CIP that was put forward to resurface the tennis courts and address the underlying problem. We've had 2 CIP workshops with council, and so far that project has made it through the filters, because we know we need to fix it right this time instead of just putting another coat on top and hoping the mesh holds it together, because it's proven that it hasn't. But once that's complete, you have the Civic Hub project that's still being discussed. The stormwater components are what they're going to look at first, and that's still a topic of discussion for council. I don't think we've settled too much on the specific next steps of that. But one thing that I will be communicating with council, especially once we get into the finer points of the budget, is it may not be this year, it may not be next year, but some of the problems that we're having, specifically the stuff that with the lights, we're dealing with aging infrastructure. So when it comes to future considerations for that property, it will be rather intensive. It might not be, if the Nancy Hansen building stays, we're going to really need to take a hard look on cost of repairs, especially with the underground infrastructure, similar to the Cape Center. The Cape Center was our old city hall. It was literally completely gutted. I have pictures where it's 4 walls and a bunch of openings and some trusses. And even once we got that much taken out, there was more to do, because it had cast iron pipes. They had previously thought that the existing roof structure was okay. That was not the case. They ended up having to replace almost all of it because it wouldn't hold the weight of the solar panels, never mind, staying on the building itself in the event of a major storm. So that will be something that council will definitely be looking at guidance on and input, because most of you do regularly use the Nancy Hansen, and it's such a, we get so many compliments, even though it is an old building, and the wallpaper is terrible, and I don't know who picked that paneling. But we get so many compliments on how that facility serves the community. The term, I was approached by about 5 different players, some residents, some first-time visitors that participated in Marcy's Paddle Battle this year, and they just couldn't stop talking about what a gem we have. So the preservation of that property to at least some extent, as far as the purposes that it's serving the modern era. It was constructed in '76, back when there was only tennis and handball. We're a little bigger than that. Oh, sorry, shuffleboard too. We're a little more complex than that now. So obviously changes will need to be made to some extent, but we're going to need to look really close at that building so it doesn't end up costing more to put Band-Aids on instead of doing a replacement if it comes down to that. If you have any questions on that, and then I'll get into my other stuff.
The racquetball court, is it usable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usable. I don't know what you call it. Is it called the mezzanine?
Yeah,
Whatever that
balcony
second, yeah,
thing.
the balcony is in a pretty serious state of disrepair, but that doesn't affect the playability of the courts itself. So,
I just remember seeing the tape. It must have been for the mezzanine.
yeah,
And
it's to prevent people from trying to go up there.
Do you have a do you have a plan of how to do anything with that, or thoughts in the works of what what you might want to do with the racquetball courts? Or are they completely okay? Like, as is, just leave them.
Gustavo had, my predecessor, for those that don't know the names, had a structural integrity report done on the structure itself. And that was obviously their number one concern was mainly the rusted items. Obviously, the concrete has metal in it as well, and that, decomposition of that leads to structural issues. And at the time, and this is pre-COVID, the engineer was asked to provide an estimate of potential cost, and the estimate that came through to get that facility back to what it needs to be was $64,000. And
No
that's
thanks.
a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. I only asked, I was just thinking about it, and I know that it would take a lot, and I love the mural. Like, it's absolutely amazing. So, just thinking through, like, how do we,
Well, the current drawings that Kimley Horn has produced for the Civic Hub project retains that wall.
fantastic.
And repurposes the other side of it.
Okay.
I'd like to see them do it, but their ideas at least look very good on paper, and it would preserve that one little piece for us, but also make that space a little more functional for events and storage. There's never enough storage for anything, and also it would provide exterior, per their current design renderings. It would also provide exterior bathrooms that we could make accessible, without having to open up the Nancy Hansen for bathroom access.
Fantastic.
And that's been something that people have asked for
That would
a
be really
long.
nice.
When I first started, my office was over there, and people were like, well, why can't you just, because the bathrooms technically do hit the outside wall, and people were saying, well, why don't you just put a door so we can access them from both sides? And it never happened, but it's definitely a need there at that facility.
Got it. Thank you.
So beyond that, bless you, I don't really have too many other updates. I did want to share with you, each of you have in front of you a copy of our public garden survey. We included all the responses. There was only a total of 52. And if you're familiar with the way we do our surveys, we always ask for the respondent's zip code. That's usually a kind of a pre-programmed response so that people, put in what they want. And it allows us to because we do have a lot of non-residents that do utilize our facilities, but it allows us to identify, who's here, who's not here, and what the residents are preferring, and still get a little input from those that are non-residents. The responses were all over the board. I was really hoping that this agenda for this meeting was going to have an actionable item for you on this, but apparently it takes a lot longer to build a car wash than I anticipated.
Yeah,
So I don't want to
seems so.
make any major moves or decisions or force you guys to make any major moves or decisions until I actually see that building in operation. We've already had to make some adjustments to what we have in the park. John mentioned that, the benches that we got for Patriots were a lot more resilient. They're concrete, but once they're in, they kind of need to, it's helpful to keep them where they're at. And one of the existing benches, we tried to, take out one, put in another in the same spot. Well, one of our existing benches faced west, but was right along the fence line. And as we were looking to make sure that the new benches would be a good fit, I realized that if you were sitting on that bench when a car entered the car wash, because it was literally directly where people enter the car wash, you might get that initial blast. So we decided
wouldn't be
to
happy.
move that particular bench to another location, but that's just an example of how, it's already affecting the property. This board will probably need to make some advice on how to keep it looking nice despite whatever's sitting in front of it. And also keep it a safe place, because you don't necessarily want to start putting fences up to hide things you don't want to see, because that prevents law enforcement and can create other problems. So there's going to be some decisions to make once we actually see that building in its full operations. Beyond that, John mentioned the completion. Almost, we're at 98.9% complete for Veterans Memorial Park. The ribbon cutting is scheduled for Flag Day. We considered trying to get it squeezed into, Memorial Day, but it's really difficult to get some of our veterans organizations to participate in things like that, because those are big days for them. They usually have annual events planned, so we're hoping that Flag Day will is a little bit less of a demand on them, and we'll be meeting with them tomorrow to kind of nail down some of the final aspects of it. But as it stands now, we are scheduled for Friday, June 14th at 10 a.m. So we do hope anybody can come. Please take a look at it. It's gorgeous already. There is stuff that still needs to be moved into place. We need to do a good final cleaning so that, all that construction dust and sand that's everywhere is tidied up. The grass is taking well, especially in I'm calling it the event green, because it's not as big as the event lawn that we have at the C5, but it is a small space that is perfect for small commemorative types of events. And that will be where the grand open, or the ribbon cutting, is held. So, beyond that, that's really about all the updates I have, unless anyone has any specific questions on anything I forgot, because I forget things all the time. Oh, and summer camp's starting. That's always fun.
One of the comments on this public garden survey, 15, says, task the Culture and Leisure Services Board with participating in the maintenance, inspection of, and coming up with ideas for improvements of the garden, much like the Beautification Board used to participate in similar activities years ago. If any of you posted that, let me know.
See, and we're already engaging, based on the
engaging the
community's
community.
response. I did notice one person asked where the garden was, which is another testament to maybe considering a different location in the future.
Status of CIPs in the CIP workshop, any that are off the table now, or they're all moving forward-ish?
There's been a couple that have been pushed back. Most of them were, I don't want to say non-critical, but there's the nice-to-haves, and then there's the need-to-haves. So we try to always focus on the need-to-haves, and if there's wiggle room for a nice-to-have, we'll get that in there. One of the things that was pushed out is very much just creature comfort. It was the gym dividers.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not stopping us from using the gym. It's just limiting how we can engage with the gym and how many different groups of people. The one thing that I was focused on when I originally proposed getting gym dividers was the fact that if we have a rainy day and our summer camp kids can't go out and play, that's the space. And when there's no way to separate the summer camp kids from the general public, we can't have them in the same space together. There's too many variables there that could go wrong. So if we had the gym dividers, we would be able to control our space. And it's like my catchphrase, control our space, in order so that people can play, be playing pickleball on one side and the kids are playing on the other, So that one got pushed out. We have a vehicle. Some of you have seen it. It's our little Jeep Liberty. It's cute. It doesn't get a whole lot of use, and because of that, it is not in good repair. With the growth of the department, a couple years ago, we added a second maintenance person, so now there's 2 trucks for them. They do a lot of the running around. We got a small donation from the port to help PAL, the Police Athletic League program, get a van, so we have that. So there's another vehicle. So it just gets driven less and less. And it's not that we don't have a need for it, because when we need it, we need it. But we are proposing, instead of getting another car, another actual vehicle, of replacing it with club cars, so golf carts that have the capacity to either tote people or to tote mainly speakers, event equipment, whatnot. And I had proposed 2, and we pushed 1 out to another year. So
Summer camp enrollment this summer versus last summer? Same?
so far we're on track. Yep, we kept the same numbers.
I'm just thinking with the gym dividers, because if you push it off of this budget, it won't actually come until 26, correct? So like,
So-
we're just looking
Two
forward.
more summer camps.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Anybody have anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our meeting is adjourned.
Kathy, nice work.
I'm trying